Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, brought to you by Olipop.
Check this out right here. Oh, so satisfying, wasn't it?
There you go. Yep.
Unique sip tonight. Banana cream is what we're rolling with.
Awesome. So I'm going to just give you all straight up. I feel like complete dog, you know what? Migraine from hell. I'm trying to battle through this thing. So if I bow out, I bow out. I'm sorry. I'm trying. I just woke up from like a 2-hour nap and I don't feel good. So, anyways, let's talk some Oklahoma Sooner football and recruiting fall camp. I think we're bearing the lead here. You dropped a nugget on OU Insider on Williams Nwaneri.
We got Mizzou fans watching too tonight. They're already active in the chat.
Oh, shocker. Shocker. Yeah. So go ahead, man. Do your thing. I'm gonna be probably as less active as I possibly have ever been on here. So go for it.
First off, folks, drink Olipop. It's the soda that's good for you. Drinkolipop.com is where you can head to find more information. Never more than 5 grams of sugar in a single can, 9 grams of fiber, prebiotics to enhance digestive health, and it comes in 14 delicious flavors, including banana cream. So you can use promo code CHAMPU20 on the website to get 20% off your first order. Again, drinkolipop.com is where you're going to want to head. And yeah, I guess we know what everybody's here for.
To watch you drink Olipop, obviously.
Clearly. But no, in all seriousness, this situation with Williams Nwaneri, as we sit here 5 days from his decision, I'll be honest, Brandon.
Can I say something real quick?
You are welcome to say something.
So how weird is it for you? You remember not a month and a half ago when we were sitting here going, he doesn't like all the drama. He doesn't like all this. And now the adults are running the recruitment and not the children, and the drama persists. Yes, adults ruin things more than help things in this situation. Am I speaking facts to this? Because we deal with recruiting all the time. And I love parents. Love them. But I also watch little kids, parents coach 7 and 8-year-olds and act like their kid is a second, like they're going to be this 8-star kid or whatever. Like, I'm proud of my kids always, right? Like, I have no delusions that my kids are going to be some college football player ever. That's their dream big, but it starts at that level and it goes up. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm just saying when the adults are in the room, things get ruined almost always. You see it in college football. Look who's running college football. It's not just recruiting. The adults are in the room and they're ruining everything. Look at all the chaos that's going on. Am I wrong, Parker?
I mean, in a general sense, no.
Okay,
the more
that's where
cooks,
I've been holding on that rant for a while, by the way.
Okay, well, there you go. The more cooks in the kitchen in any particular recruitment, the hairier things get. And with Williams and Nwaneri, look, as we first reported over 3 weeks ago at this point, this is Oklahoma and Missouri down the stretch. It is those two programs battling it out. Georgia, Tennessee, Oregon, all out of the picture right now. It's the Sooners and it's the Tigers. And everybody kind of understands at this point, Brandon, that if NIL isn't the primary driver, and I know I'm not going to convince some people of that, but I truly don't believe NIL is the primary driver in this recruitment. I believe the kid wants to go somewhere that he can trust the coaches and where he knows he's going to be developed, and also where he can be reasonably close to home. I think OU and Missouri both fit that bill. Maybe not to the same extent, but they both fit what he's looking for in a school. Now, that's the reason why I was so confident in coming out 3 weeks ago and reporting amidst a ton of residual smoke for Georgia that, hey, it's not going to be Georgia. It's going to be Oklahoma or it's going to be Missouri. Now, there was a time last week where Missouri seemingly had a ton of momentum as this thing got closer and closer to the final hours. And I feel like it's been publicly acknowledged enough that we can just come out and talk about it openly. Look, the crux of Missouri's pitch to Nwaneri is NIL, right? I mean, this is a coaching staff that heading into year 4 under Eli Drinkwitz has yet to enjoy a winning season. That schedule this fall is tough. It's tough, man. But they're fortunate to have a really strong crop of in-state recruits and some NIL legislation that presents them a very conspicuous advantage when it comes to being able to recruit and potentially sign some of that in-state talent. And so Missouri never completely went away in this recruitment, but they really made their surge in the month of July. And as the calendar turned to August, here they come as the primary contender to Oklahoma down the stretch as we get closer and closer to that August 14th commitment date. Now, I've had a prediction in for Oklahoma since March. Both of us have, Brandon. And I think there are enough reasons and have been enough reasons to believe that Oklahoma makes the most sense for Nwaneri that it was going to take a lot for either of us to back down from those pledges or concede that OU had been overtaken. But I will freely acknowledge Missouri did come closer and has come closer to actually overtaking Oklahoma than anybody throughout the entirety of this process. Oregon, Tennessee, Georgia, they kind of all had their day in the Nwaneri recruitment. But we never felt as though there was a serious threat to OU's lead until Missouri got involved at the end, and you heard some of the figures thrown around. Look, I'm not going to confirm or deny any of the numbers that have been floated, but we know Missouri's NIL offering is substantial. And despite all of that, throughout this whole process, I think what is most, and honestly, there was a point at which it was shocking, Brandon, because we have all of this buzz around Missouri on social media and elsewhere, predictions flying, and folks within the Switzer Center have just never really been all that worried about it. Legitimately unconcerned, no matter how much buzz or how much smoke there has been.
I wish people could have been on, just witnessed the phone call that we had, that you and I had with a just locked in source within the Switzer Center the other day. And before that phone call, Parker was like, Brand, I don't know, man. Like, I just got off the phone with my source and things don't sound very good. We called the Oklahoma source and I'm like, man, just got a different relationship with the family and with Williams. Not really that worried about it. They've explained everything to us already. We were just sitting there going, what is going on? Like, it was like, we got off the phone. We're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and like, this is the reason why we vet stuff with multiple sources, right? Because Sunday evening was probably the closest I have come throughout this whole process to putting out an update that basically expresses, okay, like there's legit reason to be concerned here. But then you touch base with a couple more folks, make that phone call, and it's clear that, okay, everything is not as it seems here. And
yeah.
I guess this is just what we have come to expect in the NIL era and in the social media era more broadly with 5 stars. But there definitely seems to be / have been some intentional subterfuge here to try and disguise the true leaning, as it were. So, look, we're 5 days out. I stand by my OU prediction. One thing that I think should provide some comfort to OU fans that are still understandably sweating a little bit because, you know, they got burned by DJ Hicks last year. There's
Xavier
PTSD from that.
Sims.
We
Yep.
would be we would be foolish not to acknowledge that. But I think what should provide some comfort to OU fans is that whatever, and I reported this on OU Insider earlier today. I'd mentioned it on the radio earlier in the afternoon and put out a little update early this evening that kind of riffed off the same intel that I was getting from talking to sources, is that it really does feel like whatever momentum Missouri had gained in the Nwaneri recruitment has petered out. And Oklahoma is the school that and I hate using
Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and as I made clear in the update, Missouri has not taken their final swing at Nwaneri yet. So I know it's what nobody wants to hear, and I know maybe it sounds like I'm hedging, but look, I've never been particularly ambiguous about my feeling as to where Williams Nwaneri ends up. I'm just trying to tell you, there's still time and opportunity for things to change here. But based on some of the things that have happened over the course of the last few days between the Nwaneri family and folks on the Oklahoma end, I think sources in and around the Switzer Center are as confident as ever that heading into this decision, Oklahoma is still in the driver's seat. And whatever tempest they had to weather to remain in the driver's seat, they've done so. Now, again, I want to add the caveat that there's still time for stuff to change. And so anybody who's taken this to the bank is, like, I'm sorry, you're just as foolish as Missouri folks that were taking this thing to the bank 24 hours ago. We're dealing with a 5-star here. I cannot guarantee anything. Nobody can guarantee anything with the Nwaneri recruitment. But I think, especially for me, having spent as much time around that school and around that kid as I have for the last 2 years, and just knowing what kind of makes him tick and what he's looking for and what moves the needle for him, not necessarily his folks, but for him, you get the sense that Oklahoma really is the perfect fit for a player and a person like him. And so that's part of the reason why throughout this whole process, I don't know, we never really have conceded, Brandon, that Missouri overtook Oklahoma, even for an instant. And I think part of that reason is because there was always that sense that the road was going to lead back to OU for Williams Nwaneri, regardless of whatever twists and turns there were along the way, because he's got the best relationship with Miguel Chavis and Todd Bates, regardless of what folks on the Georgia end will say or elsewhere. No, he himself will tell you Chavis and Bates are the guys that he's clicked with. The OU staff is the staff that he's clicked with the most over the course of this recruitment. And also, I don't think it's insignificant. And this is something that many have pointed out on social media the last couple of days, but it bears repeating. If Williams Nwaneri ends up at the University of Oklahoma, what is he going to have that he would not have at the University of Missouri? The answer is 3 war daddies lined up alongside him in the defensive trenches. If he goes to Missouri and he's the meal ticket on the defensive line for that program, the game plan, the opposing game plan for whatever program faces off with the Tigers on any given Saturday is going to be, okay, we're going to double, triple team him if necessary. We're going to take him out of the game, because if we neutralize the threat that he presents, we're going to have no trouble moving the football. Well, at Oklahoma, he's wearing the crimson cream. You can't really scheme that way, because you double or triple team Williams Nwaneri, you got PJ Adebawore coming off the other side. And you double or triple team PJ Adebawore, vice versa. You got Williams Nwaneri on the other end. And you got Jaden Jackson and potentially David Stone in the middle there. That's it's lethal injection or firing squad. Take your pick. Pick your poison. And so I think that is going to be a crucial part of OU's pitch here down the stretch when areas both these programs make their final overtures. Hey, you know what? Not only can you come play at a university where you can make good money via NIL, compete for championships, and play for an elite defensive mind in Brent Venables, but you can play alongside guys that are going to make you better. Not just on Saturdays, but on the practice field either, because they're going to be fighting tooth and nail for all the sacks, all the hurries, all the statistics that you want to accrue. Guys are going to be racing you to the quarterback on every single snap. And you're going to be playing alongside guys that are every bit, or at least close to, as talented as you. And beyond that, you can line up against offensive linemen on the practice field throughout the week. They've been coached by one of the country's best in Bill Bedenbaugh, and they're going to get you better. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And in general, I think the iron sharpens iron mentality that Oklahoma can leverage with a kid like that is what's going to help tip the scales. And I don't know, Brandon, I've never really been of the opinion that the bag dictates the outcome here, because A, I don't think Will's that type of kid. And B, he's a 5-star player, consensus top 5 player in the country. He's going to get paid handsomely wherever he goes. At a certain point, you're just splitting hairs, man.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I'm with you. I think, and I wrote a note earlier today. I said, look, there's everything that I've been told, and I linked your note. My gut tells me it's Oklahoma, just from a variety of things. And, and I had no idea that you had put a note up right before that, because obviously I've been in and out today with just a migraine from hell. So I made a few phone calls and decided I'll just put up some notes, because I'd got some Caden Durham information that was pretty spicy. And then you and I talked on the phone right before I dropped that. And yeah, when a recruitment's where this one's at, you just have to trust that the people that know or feel that they know, because there's so much. But you keep calling it subterfuge, and that's probably the right term for
Yeah, well,
it.
and I,
It's more or less, I think, on the inside, it's like, okay, is he telling both sides what they want to hear? Is he doing? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So you got to trust your gut.
exactly.
Okay? My gut says this whole time Oklahoma has been at or near the top, if not the top school. They've always been it's always been and Oklahoma, regardless of, or Oklahoma, regardless of the school
Well,
that they're talking about.
And I also think, Brandon, like in this industry, in any industry, if you're doing things the right way, you're constantly getting better, right? And you're seeing things that maybe you didn't see before. You're cognizant of things that you may have ignored before. And I think, honestly, I mentioned this last night, but there are some definite shades of Zadavian Sims here. And I don't want to trigger more PTSD for OU fans, but I think with Zadavian Sims, in hindsight, there were some signs there that presented red flags, if nothing else, i.e. the fact that he had visited Oregon twice in the month leading up to his recruitment, while not having visited OU for quite some time previously. But that was a situation where you had a kid telling both sides exactly what they wanted to hear, telling Oklahoma, hey, I'm coming, telling Oregon, hey, I'm coming. And somebody's getting two-timed, right? He's leading somebody on. And it was just a question of whether that was Oregon or whether that was Oklahoma. In the end, it was Oklahoma that was getting led on. But with Nwaneri, it's very much kind of a similar deal where you just get the sense, based on what has been reported, based on the stuff that's going around, both on this end and the Missouri end, both OU and Missouri are hearing exactly what they want to hear from the kid in his camp. Stuff that has made folks confident on both sides that their school is getting the nation's top defensive end. And I think that's where you have to rely on the cues, and you have to really start breaking this thing down all the way to the atoms in essence to try and figure out what's real and what's not. And I just, it's very, very difficult to believe that, especially 5 days leading up to his commitment date, that Williams Nwaneri, given how long he's been in contact with Chavis and Bates, how long he's been building those relationships, the peer-to-peer relationships that come into play at Oklahoma, the relationship with his coach, who's an OU alum. Like, there's so many more reasons, I guess, not to screw over Oklahoma, that it's exceedingly difficult to believe, at least from the perspective of an observer who is cognizant of all these factors. It's very difficult to believe that this is a kid that's flat out lying to OU or even misleading them.
Yeah.
Let's hit the super chat here because people
we've got plenty of super chat.
People are stacking them up. Peyton Bennett dropped $10. We appreciate that. As much as I hope we get Williams and Nwaneri, I also hope we don't, so I can watch the meltdown and be the biggest troll of all time. P.S. Your favorite OU Insider member, Gucci. Mm-hmm. That's either an OU fan.
Gucci. No, Gucci's been a strong member of whatever board I've been a part of for a long time. He's originally from the Weatherford area. Peyton, what's up, man?
Fresh Prince 17 dropped $10. I'm really scared to ask because I had a lot of optimism for him. But what's the word on Jalil Smothers? I heard that he's not currently with the team. Is his retention something we should focus on more? Now, Brandon, I would say you're a little bit more dialed into that situation than I am, so I'll let you kind of address that deal.
Okay, so Parker called me probably 72 hours ago about it, I guess. About the
no, it was yesterday afternoon.
Was it yesterday? See, I can't even remember how long ago it was. Jeez. Yeah, okay. So he called me yesterday morning. But at the time, here's the funny part. His Smothers was actually in meetings yesterday morning. So this had to have been brewing a little bit. I think there's been some things going on personal with him. And because of that, there's been no note on OU Insider. There's been nothing on OU Insider. People have asked about it. There's been a thread on OUinsider.com. I've been commenting on it. And I essentially said, look, we're going to stay as delicate as possible about this. We're not going to talk about it much at all because he's still on the roster. He's still considered part of the team. And nobody that we talk to wants to make much of a big deal about it at this juncture. Now, having said that, you now have a little wiggle room with Durham because now you have a potential spot open. And I say potential because I think at the end of the day, they want Smothers on the team because they think he has a chance to be pretty good. So I think there's a lot of play, give and take here that we have to, as reporters, tread lightly on. And so we've done that. We allowed you all to start the thread. And then I've come in and given little bits of notes on there. But yeah, it's a weird situation. It's something nobody within the program wants to make a big deal about because I think at the end of the day, they feel like there's a decent chance nothing major comes of it and that, he returns and all is good. And that is to say, if he actually left, Norman, period. Maybe he just has to take care of some things, from a distance. And there's a lot of different ways that you could look at this. So again, I think that's something we need to wait and talk to with Coach Venables and let him be the one to dive and deep into it and confirm it. But yeah, we've heard the buzz. We've talked about it on our board. It's just, nobody wants to say that he's gone.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to say he's gone. And I think that tells you that I think there's a lot of belief that he could be returning. Now, on the Durham side of things, Oklahoma has been very much trying to make a strong move here because you see Colin Simmons, the buzz seems to be moving towards Texas right now. Whether that's real buzz or subterfuge, as Colin says, we'll see. We'll find out all this tomorrow. That said, I know for a fact Oklahoma talked to Durham last night for a very long time. I also know that the recruit's parents talked to his parents and Durham himself for a very long time last night. So the Oklahoma side is really trying to make a push, almost to the point where they feel somewhat good about things. But I'm not there yet. I still feel it's going to be LSU. But I think that Oklahoma has not waved the white flag at all.
No, they have not waved the white flag, but I guess I would liken this one to the Anthony Evans recruitment. Commitment number 1 in the Anthony Evans recruit. Well, I guess he was committed to Arkansas, so technically commitment number 2 last year, because Anthony Evans woke up the morning of his OU commitment with the intention of committing to Georgia, and that thing turned on its head 4 hours before he went public with the decision. What I know is that in a world where Caden Durham picks Oklahoma tomorrow, which again, I'm not counting on right now, that is a case of Oklahoma completely turning the tide in that recruitment in the span of the final 24 hours, because I know for a fact that as of 4:30 this afternoon, Caden Durham was not going to Oklahoma. So if Oklahoma somehow pulls that off tomorrow, it'll be the closest thing in this 2024 cycle to what happened with Anthony Evans last August, before ultimately he ended up flipping to Georgia anyway. But yeah, that's about where things sit. Peyton threw in another $20 and said I couldn't handle the pressure from CJ. I'm not sure who CJ is, but glad CJ compelled Peyton to throw us an extra $20. Mongo says, sorry I'm late. Today's shout out is for Peter Thorne and Brian Dunn, co-publishers of OU Outsider, excuse me. Yeah, Mizzou fans, I will give them credit. They've been very creative with their social media trolling. Very creative. There's been some quality Photoshop, After Effects work done. No question about that.
Just so you know, hey, just a little before we end, and hey, I want to thank Russell Jenkins, the hundo. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you're the man. Like, hey, every week, bro, you're solid. Appreciate you so much. I want to add something to the Smothers deal. I got a text from a really solid source here.
Okay.
He has not been in practice the last few days, so, but, he's. No, but they don't expect him to be gone. So, again, but I do want to add that we can't confirm nor deny any of that. That is up to Brent Venables to do that. Yeah. So, rumors are rumors. Everything else, just he's not off the team from what this person didn't even think he was off the team. So, take that for what it's worth.
Taylor dropped $5 and says, all I want to know is what cartel Russell works for and if they're hiring. Tanner King says, Joey Big Fish rumors. Any chance staff rolls back around to Zadavian Sims before National Signing Day? Joey Big Fish is Joseph Jonah Jonier, who is committed to Georgia. I would not anticipate that changing, and no, I would not anticipate Oklahoma rolling back around on Zadavian Sims. Right now, the short list on the defensive line is David Stone, Williams Nwaneri, Dominic McKinley, Nigel Smith. And then you throw in the 2 legit straight up edge guys in Danny Okoye and Zena Moselou to round things out. And you have 6 uncommitted players with 4 months until National Signing Day, all of whom you stand a very good chance, not the exact same chance, but nonetheless, you still stand a very good chance of getting all 6 of those guys to varying degrees. I would say Stone is, well, no, Smith is the closest thing to a lock amongst those 6. The odds on Stone are pretty good. Say odds on Nwaneri at this point are pretty good. Okoye, McKinley, and Mozelu, what you know about those 3 in OU right now is that OU's in the race. Whether or not they win out still feels like there's a lot to be determined there. Let's see if we have any other super chats or if we're all caught up. Looks like we're all caught up. Jay Barnett dropped $20 and just said, grateful for the professional work, guys. Well, Jay, we are grateful for you. We are grateful for all of the 1,300 plus folks that have tuned in with us
Pretty
on a
awesome.
Wednesday night.
Yep. Pretty awesome.
By the way, if I'm honestly not trying to get you all to pay us more, but if you have a question that you really want to get answered, my recommendation would be to just drop it in the super chat, even if it's only like a 99-cent contribution, just because there are so many chats that pile up. It's very, very difficult to even cull things down to just a few that we want to be able to hit. So
that was essentially why we created the super chat to begin with, so we could get to the questions that we could see the most. But it's turned into something of a life of its own, which we are super blessed about, and we are so very grateful, by the way. I think people are asking about David Stone, obviously, and all that. So y'all know, I'm going to go see David. As a matter of fact, David and Jaden Jackson. I will be on a plane flight at 12:56 tomorrow, heading to Tampa. I will land in Tampa about 6 o'clock. I will be up the next morning, and I will be in, can never remember the town, Bradenton, Florida, around noonish, 11 o'clock. And then at 1 o'clock, they have the actual media day, and then we get to watch them scrimmage, the varsity scrimmage each other. So I'll be able to get videos, photos of David Stone. I'll be able to get a one-on-one with him. Obviously, we were personally invited to the IMG Media Day, which was pretty cool. So I will get a one-on-one with him, and that is going to be really, really critical for us. And that will be on OU Insider as well. Probably be on this YouTube page at some point, but I believe we're probably going to make it private and on OU Insider for at least a couple of days. That way our members get it for a while, way before the public. But nonetheless, everything will be on all the updates, all that type of stuff. Get a first crack at Jaden Jackson in person since he committed to Oklahoma, which is huge. I'm excited about all that. Plus, there's always these up-and-comers, right? 25, 26, that we'll be able to see and talk to, that Oklahoma will at some point start to make a run at IMG. And so us getting we're really tied in. Coach Zalotti, always want to thank him. We're really close with him. One of the lead guys of IMG, been a close friend of ours for a while. So we're trying to stay as connected as we can to IMG, because Oklahoma is going to dive into that area as much as they possibly can with all the talent that flows through there. And obviously, David Stone and Jaden Jackson being there right now, it's huge for us to get down there for that media day. And I'll be back down there later on this month when the Battle of the Beach happens, and obviously David Stone announces. So hopefully it doesn't turn out like David Hicks deal. Not trying to bring up any, old wounds or anything like that, but I don't expect that to happen this time. Of course, I didn't expect it. David Hicks.
Steven in the super chat says, are we getting Doug Stone or not? There's some Doug joke happening in the chat. I haven't been able to.
Okay. No. Everybody's making fun of the Missouri for mispronouncing our names. You're Peter Thorne. Yeah, you were Peter Thorne. And I was like,
yeah,
something Dune or whatever, and they just got us completely mixed up, and it wasn't like a joke. They did it on purpose. So now everybody's making fun of them.
Yeah. Now, we have another super chat, $20 courtesy of Rogue, Bricks, Bogonowski, and McKinley. Well, here's what I can tell you all on Bricks. Oklahoma feels quite good about where they stand in the recruitment of the 4-star offensive tackle from the state of Iowa. I'm actually going to be up there this weekend. I will be out at Brix's practice on Saturday morning, so I'll have more insight at that time. But I think the consensus here, not just at Oklahoma, but elsewhere, is that if there is a decision by the end of the month, it's going to be OU. And if it drags into September, that's where you have to start worrying about Nebraska and Kansas State making, or I guess, reestablishing their presence and their foothold in this recruitment, because inevitably what's going to happen is they're going to try to get Bricks on a game day visit, and it's a lot easier to make the drive from Logan, Iowa to Lincoln for a Nebraska game or to Manhattan for a Kansas State game on a Saturday than it is to make the trek all the way down to Norman, which is 7 hours from Logan. So all in all, I think if you're OU, you have a window, and that window is about 3 weeks to lock this thing down for good. Not to say that you couldn't get Bricks if it came down to a mid to late fall commitment date, but you feel a lot better about your chances if you can get him to shut things down by the end of August, and if you can get a date on the schedule. I also don't think, and I've said this before, I don't think Bricks is a commitment date type of guy. Like, if and when he commits, it'll just be quick and easy. It's done. Like, so I don't think there will be a lot of pomp and circumstance. The window for me, though, is August. If this recruitment is over in August, it's over in favor of OU. If it drags into September, I don't know, man. You almost have to reset expectations. With Bogonowski, man, that's an interesting one because there's no end in sight.
Yeah, I talked to somebody last night about that, actually.
Which is weird because he and his family were adamant that a decision was going to happen sometime in July, and that would be that. And obviously July has come and passed, and here we still are. We don't even have a ballpark.
K-State playing the long game, baby. And here's what I'll tell you all, and this is what I expect to happen. If this thing is still going by the middle of September, like September 15th, 16th, 17th, something like that, I think you're going to start see Oklahoma offering other people and getting other safeties in on official visits. Because right now, they're trying to say, I think they have, so I think they have 70 officials total, and I think they've used 51, something like that, 52. So I think they have 18. They would like to save those 18 for obviously Okoye and maybe another, player or two in the season, and then have the rest. They would like to have between 15 and 16 for transfer, just in case they need to take that many. You always want to have surplus, just in case. You want to have that, in your holster a little bit. But I could see this, and I know right now Oklahoma does not want to offer safeties. That I'll say this. There was a offer tweeted the other day, and Parker, you can confirm this as well.
Yep.
That was not an offer. I you have to be kind of blunt about that. Unfortunately, and I don't think it was meant to be. I think it was a misunderstanding more than anything else, because I asked multiple people and everybody's like, nope, we didn't offer him. We didn't offer him. We didn't offer him. So, I mean, there's that. So, that's just something. But having said that, that same recruit is one I would put in your little short list of guys that Oklahoma would be. They are going to make a run at a couple if they miss out and or are having to wait too long. Because Oklahoma, I don't think they're going to be willing to wait as long as K-State is on Bogonowski at all. I just can't see it. They're Oklahoma. And
I think the difference between Oklahoma and K-State there is that Oklahoma and K-State recruit on two different levels, right?
Correct.
Oklahoma, like they can go and they can find another top 250 player and make some serious noise and heat up quick with that kid and potentially get him committed in the span of.
No, is that 250 kid as good as Bogonowski?
Well,
That's the question. And I don't think I could honestly, because I think Bogonowski is a top 100 player. You talk ceiling wise.
Yeah,
like
no, and I would agree. Like, there's a reason why Oklahoma loves that kid as much as they do,
and why they've waited. Yeah,
but I guess what I'm saying is the drop off between Bogonowski and OU's next best alternative is not nearly as steep as the drop off between Bogonowski and K-State's next viable alternative. And moreover, even if the kid were just another 3-star and not a legit consensus blue chip kid, even if he were just another 3-star, he's from Junction City, Kansas, which is 15 minutes up the road from Manhattan. And so you're waiting on that kid one way or another because you don't want to burn bridges at a place that is within your own backyard. And that, if there's another talented guy or two within the next 5 years that comes from that school, you want to immediately have the inroad and not have to deal with the bad taste in the mouth that could come if you chose to move on from a kid that had a K-State offer and that you recruited for well over a year only to decide in the fall, we're going to go a different direction. So for multiple reasons, Kansas State can and will wait longer for Bogonowski than Oklahoma.
Correct. And then finally, McKinley, obviously that one is down. I think it's an OU Texas battle. I think the kid wants to leave, wants to get out of state. I think, and I've been told that by even people around Norman, they feel very much that is the situation. The thing you run into is that he and his family are super quiet, keep everything really close to the vest. I know that Texas feels really good about things on their end because of the academics, but Miss Angie, Mama McKinley loves the soul mission, loves the faith-driven part of the Oklahoma football program, and very much loves Coach Bates and Coach Chavis. And because of that, there's a lot of strong feelings for Oklahoma and confidence on their end as well. So, but it's really hard for me to sit here and say, yes, that's what's going to happen. No, that's not what's going to happen. Are we getting Doug Stone or not by Stephen Garrett? And then want to thank you. Obviously, I think Doug Stone being David Stone, I feel like Oklahoma's in a good position. We talked about it earlier. I still like Oklahoma in my crystal ball. 214 Sooner. If you think I'm going to read it verbatim, you're wrong. Well played, though.
The crux of the question is, who is Clint Cosgrove, and is he a reputable source regarding the Nwaneri recruitment? Seems like he doesn't know much of anything. Thanks. Now, I will go to bat for our guy Clint here because he is plugged in the Midwest, and I think when you hear his rationale for the Missouri pick for Nwaneri, it's bold, but you understand it, right? Because Missouri objectively did pick up some steam in that recruitment for a time. There, like, anybody, regardless of how you feel, for instance, I would sit here and say there has not been a time, still hasn't been a time where Oklahoma did not lead that recruitment post first weekend of March.
Right.
But even so, I would sit here and freely acknowledge that as of this Tuesday, Missouri had a much better chance at swinging this thing than Missouri did last Tuesday. So there was some steam built up there. And Clint was pretty open, and, he's got connections on both the Oklahoma and Missouri side. And he was pretty open about the fact that, he was pretty open about the fact that he still viewed Oklahoma as the leader, but he made the pick based off the momentum at the time. He wanted to try and get out ahead of it and wanted to, I guess, basically just trusting that Missouri was going to continue to surge. And obviously Oklahoma has been able to stem the tide. And, I'm confident in my OU prediction. I know you are too, Brandon, and most anybody that's got an OU prediction in, I would say if you're listening to the right people tonight, they'll tell you, yeah, Oklahoma is still the team to beat in the Nwaneri recruitment. So, we don't always have to agree with folks within the network. Our intel all comes from different places, and we all
Correct.
steward that intel differently. So I don't fault Clint for putting in that Missouri pick. I it's not, again, obviously not something I would have done, but it was understandable given the tenor of that recruitment at the time. So
Yep.
uh we got a super chat from Colton here worth another $10 who says, congratulations on the wedding, Parker. Thank you. My wife just texted me, reminded me I forgot to put my wedding ring on for the stream. So I'm sure I'll take some flack for that later. Brandon, will you be at Union on the 17th to watch some of the OU commits? Appreciate the work, guys.
So I will be, if you're talking about the scrimmage, yeah, I plan on being there. That is the plan. I believe my family will be out of town that weekend. So yeah, I do plan on being there. Um, if so, come down, say hi, say hello. I don't know what what commits, like if you're saying Devin Jordan, he is not committed yet, but I do like Oklahoma's chances there, though Alabama and A&M are making this harder on Oklahoma than one would have liked. Captain 405, $2. Cardigan lives. It does. Not feeling well. So I'm like, literally, I got like these black lines underneath my eyes. Not feeling well. Cold as crap. Cardigan's coming to handy today just because I'm cold. So I'm a wimp. Peyton Bennett, can you
He dropped
elaborate? He
another
did.
$10.
Yes,
I
he
think
did. Peyton,
Peyton's totaled $40 in contributions tonight.
Peyton, you are the man. Can you elaborate on what's happening with tailgating? Also, Brandon, did you know the only bar that's open in Weatherford is 117 by what used to be Benchwarmers? All the others have closed. RIP, my college experience at SWAZoo. The focus is you. I was not exactly a frequenter of bars, but I did have me some fun at JC Cowboys back in the day and a couple of other lowbrow establishments, if you will, in college. So that's sad to hear that the college experience is dwindling for those out in Weatherford. That's unfortunate. As for the elaborate on the tailgating, great question. That's something I need to talk to Josie about that, actually. That is something we need to actually reach out and have either Brian and or Jesse do a story on. But yeah, I need to reach out to Josie and ask if he would be willing to talk and elaborate so that we can know what's going on. My understanding is that they're going to start opening things back up as they get closer to the SEC and or the SEC time. I think you're going to start seeing Lindsay Street be a little bit more of a used a little bit better, I believe, down the road, but I can't confirm that one way or the other. Why we need to get Josie to comment on that. So thank you. We will make a note of that, and I will do my best to get Josie on the line. 2-1 Sooner, another $5. Thank you so much. Can y'all hook me up with a refund on my last super chat since Drum didn't read it? Maybe a little 6-pack of lollipop. My DMs are open. I'm not going to say his name the way that you said it. I'll just say, if you want to, my DMs are open and we'll work something out. If it's that big a deal that I didn't read a phallus in front of Cosgrove or Grove. So let's talk a little OU football before we close out and reestablish. For those that came in late, we'll talk about Nwaneri one more time before we end this. We've been out to fall camp numerous times already, and I have to say, the team looks different, Parker, like physically different. The defensive line is huge. Like last year, you looked at the defensive line, you're like, that is not right. Like, but they're fast. So we all expected Venables would know how to use that. He would know how to make use of a fast defensive line. This year, I think Ethan Downs is down about 15 pounds, so he looks more like 2021 Ethan Downs, the guy that was very, very hard to block off the edge. Ethan Downs, his speed is kind of back. Now, I don't expect him to start, which I think a lot of people, in a sense, that's good. In a sense, that can be bad. It depends on how you want to look at it. That just means that your depth and talent is really good because Ethan Downs was obviously voted preseason All Big 12 second team. Or was he first team? Was he first team or second team, Parker? Do you remember?
Second team. He was second team.
Yeah.
Second team All Big 12 in 2022. First team preseason.
Preseason. He's first team. He's preseason first team All Big 12. So if Bothroyd does in fact start in front of him, that shows you how good Bothroyd actually is. You also have Trace Ford, R. Mason Thomas. I expect Bothroyd and R. Mason Thomas to probably be your starters on the edge right now. I think interior, your starters are probably going to. Now, granted, that's probably not how it's listed right now as a depth on the interior right now. But I think come Labor Day weekend, I think you will see Jonah Laulu, and I think you'll see Dejon Terry as your starting tackles. I think your nose tackle will obviously be Isaiah Coe. But I think Terry can move in and play that zero tech as well. I say all that because, look, you now have a lot of depth. You've got some big dudes that can play. They don't even have Jacob Lacey full go right now. And the second he gets full go, he's going to play quite a bit as well. You have Kelvin Gilliam that can play. You have Grayson Halton that everybody thinks has a chance to be an all Big 12 guy by the time he's done. And he weighs 295 now. So they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of it, people have talked about John Laulu being faster. I think that's where, to me, the defense looks different because it's bigger and stronger and faster on the defensive line, and there's more talent and more depth than there ever was last year. It's just a shame Jalen Redmond, who was cut today by the Carolina Panthers. It's a shame that he didn't stay. Everybody told him to. It's a shame he didn't. But yeah, that defensive line is different, man. Is that the position that sticks out the most to you as far as what looks different about the team?
I would say D-line and wide receiver. I said it on the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast the other day, man. Nick Anderson especially, like, that's a first-round body right there. If you could draw up what an elite wide receiver looks like, he'd look something like Nick Anderson physically. Now, first-round body doesn't always equal first-round production, but if Nick Anderson's healthy in 2023, I think he can add a world of production within this offense. And I think he could potentially emerge as the third starter alongside Jalil Farouk and Drake Stoops. We're going to see a lot of Gavin Freeman, but I do find it hard to believe that Freeman ends up either A, starting on the outside, or B, supplanting Stoops in the slot. Now, there's a reason Brent Venables has talked him up as much as he has, and it's because that dude's going to be catching plenty of passes this fall for OU. But if you're looking for size, you're looking for somebody that can contribute a large catch radius to the equation within the starting lineup that you trot out there on the first snap of the game. Nick Anderson, to me, fits the bill, and I just think the ceiling is so high for him if he can avoid the injury bug. Jaquez Petaway, he looks like Marvin Mims out there because he's wearing number 17 and they're similar in stature, but he's he's more muscular and more physically defined than Mims was. And he's been running with the ones a little bit on the practice field. And so that's a guy I think you're going to see have some type of a role offensively.
I talked to somebody about Petaway today, dude. And I said, do you expect him to be able to take the top off of defense? And they said, look, I don't know if he'll be able to do it for a whole season because they're not used to the physicality and how long and strenuous college football seasons are. So he may hit a wall, come middle of October, early November. But they said at some point during this season, you're going to see what could be in 2024 and beyond with him. And they were adamant about it.
So there you go. Petaway, probably a guy that's going to make waves at some point. Nick Anderson, definitely a guy that's going to make waves at some point. Yeah, man, the defensive line, I'll throw another name out there, Grayson Halton. And I've mentioned him repeatedly on the radio this week just because he looks so different. Last year, he looked like a tweener, somebody that wasn't big enough to play defensive tackle, but was too big to play defensive end. And I guess too big to be everything that a defensive end needs to be at the collegiate level. Well, now he's bulked up in the neighborhood of 290, and he certainly looks the part of a P5, even an SEC starting defensive tackle. So I'm real interested to see what kind of a jump he can make in year 2 after he played quite a bit as a true freshman.
Mm-hmm. We have a hundo, by the way.
From whom, might I ask?
Michael Hainzinger, our guy.
Michael the man.
He may or not be related to a top tier defensive lineman in the 2025 class.
He may or may not be indeed.
So, thank you, Michael, Parker, and Brandon. I appreciate all you do to keep us updated on all things OU and drink Olipop Boomer. Well, we appreciate you, Michael, very, very much. And thank you so much for the hundo. You're the man.
I feel as though we were right on the precipice of launching into a discussion about something, not necessarily right when the hundo dropped, but previously.
We were talking about Grayson Halton and how
we were talking about Grayson Halton. Maybe it was that I mentally was getting ready to transition to the next point, and then I got thrown off, which it was, listen, it's more than worth it.
Yeah.
To acknowledge the $100 contribution from Michael. Michael, greatly appreciate you.
I think honestly, somebody brought up safeties, by the way.
Yeah.
They brought up safeties looking different.
Hearing a lot of really
I agree with that.
Hearing a lot of really good things about Reggie Pearson. And maybe that's not the sexiest thing in the world for fans to be hearing good buzz about a 6th-year senior. Because like, okay, well, he's a 6th-year senior. Should be hearing good buzz about that guy. But I think with the knowledge that Billy Bowman is going to be a stud at one of the safety positions as long as he's healthy, right? We all know what type of player Billy Bowman is. The only remaining question, if there is much of one, in the defensive backfield, when you're talking about the safeties in particular, is, okay, is Reggie Pearson going to be all he's cracked up to be? And all indications right now are that, yeah, he's going to be all that he's cracked up to be. Mm-hmm. With Robert Spears-Jennings in the mix, with Peyton Bowen in the mix, another experienced guy in Key Lawrence in the mix. I love that Sooner safety room, Brandon. Love it. And when you don't even have to, honestly, and if either of these guys see the field, great, but when you can walk into a season and not even have to have the expectation that Day McCullough and Eric McCarty are going to see the field at all, that's a good thing. I don't know if we could have said the same about the Sooner safety room in 2022, but we can certainly say that about the safety room in 2023. It is deep and it is talented.
Yep. Hey, Bogey Mania and Russell, thank you all, Boomer and Sooner, for the $5. Thank you all so much. Yeah, the safeties, I have to tell you, like, straight up, I was told this. I was like, look, Pearson's going to play. He's probably going to start at free safety. You're going to have Bowman starting at the strong safety. Peyton Bowen is backing up Billy Bowman right now at strong safety. But there's going to be a time during the season, and everybody that I've talked to is super adamant about all this, that Peyton Bowen is in the starting lineup. And he will have worked his way in there. And no, I do not expect it. I do not expect Billy Bowman to be out the field. What I would expect is that you would probably slide Billy Bowman over to free safety and leave Peyton at strong safety, since that's what he's been learning. Billy Bowman's already played strong and free in this system last year. He knows both. It's nothing off his back. So I think as they try to acclimate him into this world of college football, you want to bring him on. You don't want to just throw him in there, because as they said about Petaway, another source said, These freshmen tend to hit walls. They're not Adrian Peterson. There's not very many of those. And a lot of people hit walls as the season goes on because of physicality, your legs wear out, all that type of stuff. So it's just one of those things that you want to bring him along slowly and expect big plays out of Bowen. I you know, and I think it's going to be hard to take Pearson off the field just because he could slide down to Cheetah very easily because he's that
And
physical.
yeah, well, and so too can Bowen. Both of those
Yep.
guys have been repping at Cheetah, and Brent Venables told us as much. So, heck, there may be scenarios, there may be situations in which you see Bowman, Pearson, and Bowen all in the starting lineup with one of the latter two getting the first team reps at Cheetah against what will
Right.
probably be in that scenario a more pass oriented offense.
Yeah. Somebody asked if my family said they are not sitting in the same section this year. I wish they were still in section 3 because you guys always treat them so well in that section. I love it. And they loved it. I don't know where they're at this year. I'll have to let you all know. Yeah, I just expect more out of the defense. Linebacker wise, I just expect such a huge year out of Danny Stutzman. I do. I think Kobe McKinley. Everybody's talking about, Connor Neer and Jaron Canick and how, this and that. We've seen what Kobe McKenzie looks like. Like, you look at Kobe McKenzie as a high school senior and you look at him now, and it's like they don't look anything similar. This dude he pays attention to what he eats. He's super into being Schmitty built, and he's focused on being the best linebacker he can possibly be. He's grown up a ton. I think that there's going to be a point in time this season when McKenzie has one of those games and everybody goes, okay, this is why he was so highly rated. This is why everybody thought so highly of him. And he's going to prove everybody wrong that said, oh, he needs to be playing defensive end. He's going to be too big. He's already proven it by keeping his weight down for 2 seasons. So we all know he can do it. Now, does he have the defense down mentally? Because if he does, and if Brent Venables is telling us the truth, there's going to be a lot of rotation at that linebacker spot this year, and not just linebacker, all across the defense. You're not going to see a team wear out every fourth quarter this year. I just don't expect that at all. They're also holding everybody back, Parker, in practice. Like, they practiced for 4 days and they took a day off. They had them come in, do film, rehab, get their treatment so that their legs are back underneath them, cold tub, hot tub, all that type of stuff for 24 hours. Then they went back at it again on a Monday. But every Sunday, they take off. They are not practicing full blow like they did last year. At one point last year, I think they went like 18 straight days without a day off. And they went into the season, Parker, and tell me if you agree with this. They were in mid-season form week 1 because of how hard they went during fall. Come week 4, when everybody else is starting to ramp up and their legs are starting to get, their season legs are starting to get underneath them, OU peaked like they were at the end of the season versus Nebraska. Because nobody else beat Nebraska down like that. Oklahoma did. They were in mid-season peak form come week 3. Come week 4, the legs started going out on them come fourth quarter, and they never recovered from it. They got a day out. They got that week off going into Kansas. They recovered for a week, beat the tar out of Kansas, and then was back doing the same thing. They were just tired. Venables learned from that. And he's talked about that, Parker. He's talked about that with us. Like, we can't do that again. We are not going to go the way we did last year. The culture's built. Now they got to build upon the culture. They're not building the culture. They're building upon the culture. So they don't have to set everything like they did last year. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But do you agree? Do you agree they look like they were in midseason form come Nebraska, and then they just all fell apart shortly
Yeah,
after?
and when you have a roster that's not deep and you peak too early, that's what happens.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, it was just it, and he was learning. First year coach, he was trying to come in and set the world on fire because he wanted to do everything, be the antithesis of Lincoln Riley at the end of the day. You know, all joking aside, he was 6-7. I never saw Lincoln Riley do that. So, success. Sorry. Um, Offensively, they're doing great. You talked about the receivers, the running backs. Everybody made a big deal about Salchuk not being there when media day or when the media was out there. And we did too, because everybody's like, where is this guy? Because he's supposed to be one of the stars of the team this year. And so when you don't see 2-7 out there, it kind of gets, rough. Um, but I I expect to see Dylan Gabriel running quite a bit more this year, which I think will make the offense much more successful. Very much more successful. What do you think they need to do on offense to be even better? Because I don't think offense was the issue last year, but depth
No,
obviously on the offense was. But what do they need to do to take that next step outside of the three
offensively, I
and
think they
outs?
just got to have a better grasp on tempo, when to use it and when to just go with a more slow burn approach, because the offense, and I think we were having this conversation on the radio, and there was a listener that chimed in with the answer. Oklahoma won the time of possession battle in just 2 of 13 games last year, i.e., they had more time of possession than the opponent. That's generally not a sustainable recipe for winning unless you're scoring on every single drive, which is implausible for any offense. So the Sooners, especially if they want to help their defense out, keep those guys fresh. And they're going to be deeper, so it won't be as much of a problem as it was a year ago. But I think this offense, and Jeff Lebby certainly is the head honcho, they're going to need to have a better grasp on when to push the envelope and when to slow things down and play game
Correct.
control.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
I talked to a source the other day, and they're like, "Man, nobody wants to hard." And the conversation was about Lincoln Riley at the time and how hard it is for Alex Grinch because of Lincoln Riley's offense. And I said, "Well, what about Levy in Oklahoma and how quickly they run?" And obviously, this person is connected to Oklahoma, and they said, "Well, you know, it sucks defensively for anybody if they're doing 3 and outs and they've only knocked off a minute and 20 off the clock." And I don't know that we're going to see as much of that. I think they're going to tempo's great. They said tempo's great when you know you have control of the game. And what they mean by control of the game is when you know you're in rhythm, when you know that you have the defense on their heels. Tempo's great. Tempo is not great when you're trying to force the issue and you end up with a 3 and out and your defense has to come back on the field after they just did a 10 play drive, not a minute and 20 seconds earlier, and now they're back out there doing it all over again. And he said that there has to be a balance, and that's something that Oklahoma is working on diligently to figure out. So I don't think you're going to see the rapid fire the way you did last year. I think they're still going to do it. I just don't think it's going to be, and I'm not trying to make anything equated to Texas here, but it's not going to be all gas, no brakes. I don't think you're going to see that anymore. I think you're going to see a diluted down version of that, but still able to ramp it up when they have to. And I think that's going to be good because I think ultimately that's going to help Levy out as well. It's going to help the quarterbacks out and then in turn help the defense out because they're going to be on the field longer and give the defense rest. I think that's enough of the team talk. Let's before we close this out, let's for those that came in late, let's rehash about Williams Nwaneri. Parker, give your spiel on why you think things have died down on the momentum with Missouri.
Yeah.
And why you and I still like our picks for Oklahoma, and where you think this thing's headed over the next 120 hours or so.
Yeah. So obviously, as I mentioned up front, Missouri has yet to make their final pitch to Nwaneri. So there's still time for this thing to change. However, Oklahoma has caused any and all Missouri momentum, at least for the moment, to grind to a halt. We mentioned that sources in the Switzer Center have just never really been worried about where they sit with Nwaneri all throughout this process, no matter whether it was Tennessee or Georgia or Oregon or now Missouri that was making the surge. They've always felt as though Nwaneri was theirs to lose in the end. And so I think with the Missouri momentum slowed, and with Oklahoma, and with the fact that this is a strictly OU Missouri battle at this point, I know not everybody's reporting that, but I'm comfortable reporting that it's either OU or it's Missouri. It definitely continues to feel as though Oklahoma still maintains the inside track in the Nwaneri recruitment. We've posted several updates over at ouinsider.com over the last 24 hours, and obviously there will be many more updates to come as this thing gets closer to the finish line. But if this means anything to anybody, I'm already planning on being up there at Lee Summit North for the announcement on Monday. So there you go.
There you go. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Olipop. If you're not drinking Olipop, go and drink Olipop. You can go to olipop.com. You can, or is it drinkolipop.com? Is that what it is?
Drinkolipop.com, folks.
Yep.
That's where you're going to want to head.
ChampU20.
ChampU20 for 20% off your order.
Yep. There you go. Or you can go to Walmart, you can go to Target, you can go to Sprouts, or you can go to Whole Foods. All those will have your Olipop. We're very, very blessed to have them as our sponsor. We want to thank Olipop once again. If you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe, hit the bell so that you get notifications, because we drop multiple videos a day here lately, and a bunch of interviews, bunch of podcasts, bunch of quick takes, post-practice, all that type of stuff. We have that on our OU Insider page. On top of that, if you are not subscribed to ouinsider.com, hey, it's fall camp and recruiting is heating up. Oklahoma has decisions from 2 5-stars this month on the defensive line, and potentially much more. We expect there to be several other commits as well this month. And if you want to be in the know, ouinsider.com. Go to ouinsider.com. You create a screen name, and then you type. If you want to do a month, it's $9.99. If you want to do a whole year, which will get you all the way through the season, all the way through this fall camp, all the way through the season, all the way through National Signing Day, both National Signing Days, all the way through all the transfer portal stuff, all the way through the bowl games, all the way through spring, all the way through the junior days in February and March, spring football, March and April, and then May, June, July. You get all these visits, whether it's Champion Barbecue, whether it's the Party in the Palace, all the official visits, and then you get at least half of fall camp, or at least a quarter of fall camp, excuse me. If you sign up today or tomorrow, you'll get quite a bit. So it's worth it. $99.95 for 1 year, $9.99 a month if you want to just try us out on ouinsider.com and join the thousands and thousands and thousands on our board every day. We are exploding and one of the fastest growing. I think we were the fastest growing rivals the last 2 months. So we want to thank you, Sooners fans, for that as well. We would like to hit 11,000 on this YouTube by season, and we're almost at 10.5. So if you guys can get us to 11,000, we'd be blessed to do that as well. Thank you so much. All right, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Olipop. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed night.